Hi children, today we are going to learn a new chapter from the textbook of Social Studies, chapter 10. The name of the chapter is Inventions and Discoveries. Inventions and Discoveries. What do you mean by inventions? The act of inventing something. The act of inventing something is known as inventions. And what is meant by discoveries? The act of discovering something. The act of discovering something. So, inventions and discoveries. So, the primitive man, the early man used to make stone for making implements. So, the primitive man used to make stone implements. Implements means tools, stone tools. And he broke a stone into two halves and used the sharp edge as knives. So the primitive man, the early man, broke a stone into halves and used to sharp the edges as knife. And later, early man happens to invent wheel. The wheel. And the wheel was the most important invention in the history of mankind. So which was the most important invention in the history of the mankind? Wheel, the discovery of wheel. So the wheel was the most important invention in the history of mankind. So initially man used wood, stone and bones to make tools and utensils. So firstly the man used to wood, stones and bones. Wood, stone and bones to make tools and utensils. And copper was discovered by chance. So after that, by chance they discovered copper. So with the discovery of copper, man began to make tools and these utensils with that copper. So a few thousand years later, man discovered iron. So he found that iron was strong and hard. So compared to other materials, iron was very strong and very hard. And he began to make tools like axes, plough and knives using iron. So firstly, the early man made weapons and all used with the wood, stone and bone. After that he found which one? Copper. Then after that he found iron. So iron was more strong and hard. So he began to make tools like axes, plough and knife using this iron. So cutting down trees and hunting animals became easier. So with this iron weapon, cutting trees and hunting animals and all these activities became very easier. And gradually men became carpenters, ironsmiths, farmers, hunters and potters. So gradually with these tools, with these implements, the men became different type of workers. Which are they? Some are carpenters and ironsmiths, farmers, hunters and potters. And after that they found some things. Which are they? Let us study. First one, steam engine. So in 1769, James Watt invented the steam engine. Who invented the steam engine? James Watt. James Watt invented the steam engine. In which year? In 1769. So in 1769, James Watt invented the steam engine. And this important invention marked the beginning of a new era. And this important invention marked the beginning of a new era. And steam engine became a basic machine. Steam engine became a basic machine. And based on this invention, many more machines were invented in a short time. So why steam engine became a basic machine? Why steam engine became a basic machine? Because based on this invention, based on the invention of steam engine, many more machines were invented in a short time. So the invention of steam engine paved the way for the invention of railway engine. So the invention of the steam engine lead the way for the invention of railway engine. And in 1825, George Stephenson invented the railway engine. So who invented the railway engine? George Stephenson invented the railway engine. In which year? In 1825. So in 1825, George Stephenson invented the railway engine. So steam engines were used to ply ships on high seas. Ply means to work steadily. So steam engines were used to ply ships on high seas. So later on, petrol and diesel engines were found. So after that, petrol and diesel engines were used. And this resulted in the invention of car, bus, trucks and other powerful means of transport. So after that, petrol and diesel engines were found. The discovery of petrol and diesel engines resulted in the invention of cars, buses, trucks and other powerful means of transport. Then next is printing machine. So it took several centuries to develop the art of writing. So several centuries took to develop the art of writing. The art of writing that it took several centuries. It took several centuries to develop the art of writing. So books were written by hand. So with that time, books were written by hand. So many scholars, many educators were involved in preparing the handwritten copies of rare books. Many scholars were involved in preparing the handwritten copies of the rare books. Such books were costly. Because the scholars involved in preparing handwritten copies for rare books for several years. That's why such books were costly. And the way to learn these books was to spend a long period of time in centers of learning. So the way to learn these books, it is too much difficult to learn these books because spend a long time. You need to spend a long period of time in centers of learning. So China was the first country to develop the art of printing. So which was the first country to develop the art of printing? China. China was the first country to develop the art of printing. Then it was in Germany that the first printing press was made. The first press was made in which country? Germany. So China was the first country to develop the art of printing, but Germany was the first printing press was made. So in the year 1443, Johann Gutenberg printed the first book in his press. So Johann Gutenberg in 1443, Gutenberg printed the first book in his press. The Bible was the first ever book printed. And which book was ever book printed? The Bible. The Bible was the first ever book printed. So it was printed on sheepskin. The Bible was printed on sheepskins and not on paper. The Bible was printed on sheepskins, not on paper. And today advanced printing technology is used all over the world. So today advanced printing technology is used all over the world. So next is telegraph. So more than 150 years ago, Samuel Morse invented the telegraph machine. So who invented the telegraph machine? Samuel Morse. Samuel Morse invented the telegraph machine more than 150 years ago. And the telegrams are sent through telegraph offices. So telegrams are sent through telegraph offices. And even if we send letters by airmail, it takes a few days to reach its destination. So if we send letters by airmail, it takes few days and it will late to reach its destination. So if we want to send an urgent and important message, we can use the telegraph facility. So if we want to send one message, an important and urgent message very fast, which one we need to use? We can use the telegraph facility. And it is an important means of communication. Telegraph is an important means of communication. Telegraph services were further improved and with the invention of teleprinter. So with the invention of the teleprinter, telegraph service were further important. Telegraph service were further improved. With the invention of the teleprinter, telegraph service were further improved. And the teleprinters are used to send messages. But nowadays, it has no relevance. And nowadays, we are sending message through mainly WhatsApp and all. Okay. Then the teleprinter looks like a typewriter. So teleprinter looks like a typewriter. There is a given one picture of the typewriter in page number 37 in your textbook. The teleprinter looks like a typewriter. So when it receives a message, it print out a copy of it. So when it receives a message, it print out a copy of it. So most newspaper correspondents send their report to their offices through teleprinters. So in ancient time, most newspaper correspondents use this teleprinter for what? For sending their report to the editor, to the officers. So most newspaper correspondents send their report to their office. How? Through this teleprinters. Next is telephone. Next is telephone. It is familiar to you. So telephone has become the fastest and most common means of communication. So telephone has become the fastest and most common means of communication. It is very familiar to you. So it was invented in 1876 by Alexander Graham Bell. So who discovered telephone? Alexander Graham Bell. In which year? 1876. 1876. 1876, Alexander Graham Bell discovered telephone. And we can talk to anyone in any place in India using STD facility. So we can talk to anyone in any place in India using STD facility. So what is the full form of STD? Subscriber trunk dialing. Which one? Subscriber trunk dialing. And ISD facility enables us to talk to people in other countries. ISD means International Subscriber Dialing. International Subscriber Dialing. So ISD facility enables us to talk to people in other countries. STD facility enables us to talk to in India, people residing in anywhere in India, and ISD facility enables us to talk to people in other countries, international subscriber dialing. Then mobile phones, which are common now, can be carried anywhere. Nowadays, you know which are the important uses of mobile phones and all. Okay. Then next is radio. So in 1896, an Italian scientist named Marconi invented the radio. Who invented the radio? Who invented the radio? Marconi. And he was an Italian scientist. One Italian scientist named Marconi invented the radio. In which year? 1896. 1896. And unlike the telegraph, radios do not have to be connected by wires or cables. So unlike the telegraph, radios need not to connect any wires or cables. The actual mass communication came with the invention of radio. So actual mass communication came with the invention of which one? With the invention of radio. Then we can listen to music, talk, plays and news on the radio while we sit at home. And we can enjoy different variety of programs with the radio. And we can also hear running commentaries on events like cricket match taking place in far off places. And the radio is very helpful to farmers and fishermen. How? Radio is very helpful to farmers and fishermen. How? And it gives weather forecast and warning about cyclones, floods and etc. That's why radio is very helpful to farmers and fishermen. The radio gives weather forecast, warning about cyclone, floods etc. That's why radio is very helpful to farmers and fishermen. And today radio is widely used as the means of communication in some regions of India. Not commonly, some regions. So after the invention of television, radios became little less. So the radio is widely used as a means of communication in some regions of India. And there are a number of radio stations in our country. So All India Radio, AIR. What is the full form of AIR? All India Radio. All India Radio is the radio service of our country. So which is the radio service of our country? AIR. Which is the radio service of our country? AIR. All India Radio. And the radio is very useful medium for the upliftment of mankind. So the radio is very useful medium for the upliftment of the people. upliftment of the mankind. And moral teaching, educational programs, scientific information, legal and medical advice, and entertainment programs are broadcast through this medium of communication. So why radio is very useful medium for the upliftment of mankind? Why radio is said to be a very useful medium for the upliftment of mankind? Because through radio we will get moral teachings, educational programs, scientific information, legal and medical advice, and a variety of entertainment programs. That's why radio is very useful medium for the upliftment of mankind. So next is television. And television was invented by John Logie Baird in 1922. So in which year television was found? In 1922. Who discovered? John Logie Baird. John Logie Baird discovered or invented television in the year of 1922. And the electronic system came into use only after 1930. So this electronic system came into use after 1930. So now we have a number of television centers throughout our country. So already nowadays each and every houses television is there. Different kind of variety of televisions are there. And television is the most modern means of communication. Which is the most modern means of communication? Television. Television is the most modern means of communication. And through television we can not only listen to but also we can see it and we can watch it, what is happening in different part of our country. Not only our country, different part of the world. So radio is only one audio one, but television is the audio visual. We can see and we can hear also. And television is the most modern means of communication because we can not only we can listen but also we can see it also, which are the incidents, which are the things happening in different part of the country. Then television is a marvelous audio visual means of communication. Television is extremely good, wonderful, beautiful audio visual means of communication. So by turning a switch we can watch plays, films, educational programs, exciting sports and other events. So actually when we switch on and we can watch their plays, dramas and films, educational programs, exciting sports and other events. So many different variety of programs are there in the television through different channels. And previously we had only 1 or 2 channels to choose from. But today there are a number of channels available through cable connection. So today there are a number of channels available in the television. So next is satellite. So man sent the first artificial satellite into space on 4th October 1957. So man sent the first artificial satellite into space on 4th October 1957. And already you studied what is satellite in science and in the previous classes also. So man sent the first artificial satellite into space on 4th October 1957. And it was named Sputnik, meaning small moon. So it was named Sputnik. Sputnik means small moon. So which was the first artificial satellite? That sent into space? Which one? Sputnik. And it meaning small moon. Today there are more than 4,000 artificial satellite orbiting the earth. So today there are more than 4,000 artificial satellites orbiting the earth. Satellites are sent into space with the help of rocket. So satellites are sent into the space with the help of what? With the help of rockets. So with the help of rockets, satellites are sent into the space. And they stay in their orbits for a long period. The satellites stay in their orbits for a long period. They stay in their orbits. And they travel around the earth at the same speed at which the earth rotates so that they remain in space over the same place on the earth. So they travel round the earth. Satellite travel round the earth. Satellite travel round the earth at the same speed at which the earth rotates. So at which speed earth rotate at the same speed the satellite round the earth, and they remain in space over the same place on the earth. So satellites carry valuable machines which help us to send and receive messages and pictures from all over the world. So satellites carry valuable machines. Satellites carry valuable machines and which help us to send and receive messages and pictures from all over the world. Then artificial satellites are of different shapes and size. Artificial satellites are different shapes and size. So the artificial body placed in orbit round the earth or moon or another planet in order to collect information or for communication is known as artificial satellite. So what is meant by artificial satellite? An artificial body placed in orbit round the earth or moon or another planet in order to collect information or for communication is known as artificial satellite. So artificial satellites are different shapes and size. Satellites is an object or vehicle sent out from the earth to revolve around the moon, sun, earth or a planet is known as satellite. So an object or vehicle sent out from the earth to revolve around the earth, moon, sun or a planet is known as satellite. So they are sent into space for different purposes. Satellites are sent into space for what? For different purposes. And through communication satellite, radio and television programs, telephone, telegraph and teleprinter, messages can be sent from one part of the world to another. And we can send messages from one part of the world to another through these satellites. Then the satellites also carry powerful cameras which take photographs of the earth. The satellites also carry powerful cameras and which take photographs of the earth. And the first satellite sent into space by India was called Aryabhatta. So the first satellite sent into space by India and it was called Aryabhatta. What was the name of that one? Aryabhatta. Aryabhatta was the first satellite sent into space by India. And INSAT 1A, INSAT 1A, INSAT 1B, INSAT 1C and INSAT 1D are some of the communication satellites sent by India. And which are the communication satellites sent by India? INSAT 1A, INSAT 1B, INSAT 1C and INSAT 1D are the important communication satellites sent by India. And the launching of INSAT 1D strengthened our communication system a great deal. The launching means start or set in motion. Start or set in motion is known as launching. So the launching of INSAT 1D strengthened and that our communication system a great deal. And which satellite strengthened our communication system a great deal? The launching of INSAT 1D. Then on 8th December 1995, India's third indigenous communication satellite, INSAT-2C, was put into orbit by an Ariane launch vehicle. So on 8th December 1995, India's third indigenous communication satellite. Indigenous means native, produced natively. Indigenous means produce natively. So India's third indigenous communication satellite. What was the name of that one? INSAT-2C. INSAT-2C. And it was put into orbit by an Ariane launch vehicle. Ariane means heavy lift launch vehicle. And orbit, what is the meaning of orbit? The path, the curved path that an object in space takes around another object is known as orbit. The path which the planet around the sun, it is known as orbit. So this INSAT 2C was put into orbit by an Ariane launch vehicle. So next invention is electricity. Electricity. And how was electricity discovered? How was electricity discovered? And it is an interesting story, and that story is given in the textbook, page number 40. So all of you read that story. Okay, all of you read that story carefully. And after that, this incident led to the discovery of electricity, and that incident that led to the discovery of electricity. And it was soon realized that electricity was a tremendous force and could be put to good use. And electricity was a great force and could be put to good use. And after the discovery of electricity, scientists got busy in finding ways and means to produce electricity. So after the discovery of electricity, scientists got busy. And why they got busy? And they are finding ways in means to produce electricity. So in 1880, an Italian scientist named Volta made a battery which could produce a small amount of electricity. So in 1880, an Italian scientist, and what was his name? Volta. And he made a battery which could produce a small amount of electricity. And then came the invention of huge machines like generators and which produced electricity. Generators also produce electricity. And to make these generators run, engines powered by fuels like coal, diesel, gas or the force of running water are needed. And the generators run and their engine powered by some fuels. Which are the fuels used for generators? Maybe coal or diesel or gas or the force of running water are needed for engines powered. Then today electricity has become a part and parcel of our life. And without electricity we can't think. And electricity is used in almost everything. And in our house so many equipments are there. So many equipments are there. Lights, fans, radio, televisions, refrigerator, air conditioner works, and all these equipments work on electricity. And most of the trains in big cities run on electricity. Electricity is not there means nothing is there. Everything is went. Okay, so electricity is the important factor in our life nowadays. So electricity, most of the trains in big cities and they also run on electricity. And in our home, so many equipments, it also work on electricity. So next is sources of energy. Sources of energy. Coal, oil, wood, natural gas and electricity are the sources of energy. So which are the important sources of energy? Coal, oil, wood, natural gas and electricity are the sources of energy. And all these sources are limited one. And a man continues his search for new sources of energy. Why? Because all these sources are limited one. So man continues his search for new sources of energy. And scientists are making attempt to tap wind power, water power and solar power. So scientists are making attempt to tap wind power, then water power and solar power. So these sources of energy do not get exhausted. Exhausted means not finished. Exhausted means finished or empty, not empty. So another advantage of such energy is that it is clean. And it does not pollute the atmosphere like mineral oil and coal do. And mineral oil and coal that you make pollution in the atmosphere. But these natural sources of energy like wind power, water power and solar power and all these are clean and it does not pollute the air. Then man has also succeeded in making atomic energy. and man has also achieved the desired aim. Succeeded means achieve the desired aim, and man succeeded in making atomic energy, and it used to run huge machines. Atomic energy used to run huge machines, and he is on the lookout for cheaper, non-toxic and lasting sources of energy that can be used on a large scale. Toxic means, non-toxic means not poisons. Okay, not poisons. And a human being look out for cheaper, non-toxic, that means not poisons, and lasting sources of energy that can be used on a large scale. And it is important that we should not damage our environment. We need to protect it. So it is important we should not damage our environment. That's why we need natural sources of energy like solar power, water power and wind power. Then next is the computer. The computer is familiar to you. So Charles Babbage, the British scientist, invented the analytical engine. Who invented the analytical engine? Charles Babbage. Charles Babbage, and he was a British scientist, and he invented the analytical engine, and it had all the features of a modern computer. The analytical engine had all the features of a modern computer, and so he is called the father of computers. Who was called the father of computers? Who is called the father of computers? Charles Babbage. Charles Babbage is the father of computers, and from then on man has made great progress. Today we have the 5th generation computers and supercomputers. Today computer has become a part and parcel of human existence, and nowadays each and every houses there is computer also. So today there are computers in every sphere of activity, at home, in schools, industries, hotels, banks, railway stations and airports. And at home, the computer provides a number of interesting and intelligent games. And nowadays, computer science is taught not only in college but also in schools. From KG itself, children studying now computer. And the computer is slowly replacing books as a teaching aid in schools. Computer nowadays slowly replacing books as a teaching aid in schools. So the last one is internet. It is familiar to you, internet. So the internet was established in 1960s by the US Department of Defense. And who introduced the internet? The US Department of Defense. The US Department of Defense introduced the internet in 1960s, and gradually it became the popular electronic form for international communication. So gradually it became the popular electronic form of international communication. So internet became the popular electronic form for international communication. Whenever we need information on any subject, the internet will give it. And whenever we need information on any subject, the internet will give it. So the information in the internet is so much that we find it difficult to select what we need. So the information in the internet is so much, very large. That's why it is little difficult to select what we need. The internet is nowadays called the information superhighway. The internet is nowadays called the information superhighway. Information superhighway, since it is the fastest and the most efficient way of getting and sending information around the world. So why the internet is nowadays called information superhighway? Why the internet is nowadays called the information superhighway? Because it is the fastest and the most efficient way of getting and sending information around the world. So searching for and getting information on a computer with the internet facility is called internet browsing. So what is meant by internet browsing? Searching for and getting information on a computer with the internet facility is called internet browsing. Internet browsing means searching for and getting information on a computer with the help of internet facility, and it is called internet browsing. So I hope that the chapter is clear. All of you read the chapter several times, complete the notes. Thank you.